Over the last 4 years, no quarterback on a football field anywhere has been asked to jump through more hoops than Drew Lock. And of course, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson would be phenomenal upgrades. But before you rush to judge Drew Lock, let's go through a couple things. Freshman year at Mizzou, he was swimming, but still got publicity. His second year at Mizzou, new offensive coordinator. Let's start that adjustment phase again. And in his third year, many expected him to come out for the draft. He got to work with Josh Heupel for 2 years. Everything at that point in time pointed him towards being a game manager type quarterback, a quarterback who could be on tier 3. There were issues in his game, but there were good reads, good decision making, good ball placement, and anticipation. He was a solid quarterback. But instead of declaring, Drew Lock stayed. And whether or not he would ever admit it, that was a terrible mistake. Because Heupel left, he got a new offensive coordinator. Let's start that adjustment phase to a new offense again. And they decided they're going to make him pro style. And when I heard that, I was terrified. Because there are good offensive coordinators and there are good quarterback coaches. And there are bad ones too. And if you put a quarterback through the ringer with a bad quarterback coach, terrible things can happen. So despite being terrified, I paid this no mind. I didn't check in on Mizzou. There were other games to watch. And halfway through the season, I heard commentators talking about how Drew Lock has such an amazing arm. And I went, no, he doesn't. And then another announcer said, he has such a great arm. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go watch what's going on here. And to my dismay, Drew Lock was throwing the ball incredibly hard. He had lost all his touch. He had lost all his ball placement. He had lost everything that he had positively going for him as a game manager, and had gone from Matt Hasselbeck to Brock Osweiler. And at that point in time, I laughed and said, well, he's going to Elway. Not surprisingly, that happened. But before he got to Denver, he got to work with Jordan Palmer. And Jordan Palmer changed his mechanics back in a lot of ways. There was an issue with Drew Lock's off-platform mechanics. They graded terribly in college, and Jordan Palmer worked on that as well. But before even getting to Denver, Drew Lock had been through 2 different offenses and overhauled his mechanics twice prior to starting his NFL career. No quarterback wants to go through that. Quarterbacks like stability. And it isn't a surprise that in his first year, Drew Lock played all right. Drew Lock has never been a quarterback who looked good in his first year in a system. His first year as a freshman, his first year with Heupel, his second year with Heupel was his best year. His first year with Dooley, his first year in Denver. All the first years have always been a struggle for Drew Lock. But even in that first year, the arrow for Drew Lock was pointing up. And a big reason for that was the work that Jordan Palmer did with him on his off-platform mechanics. Now, Drew Lock had a habit of backpedaling into throws and throwing completely off balance when he was on the move to his left or his right. Jordan Palmer did a much better job of having him stall his feet out when he was booting to the left or the right, and he taught him how to throw off a post step. So you slam your right foot into the ground, you push yourself backwards with your left foot to get your axis turning. That is control. That is composure. And this is something you saw in Drew Lock's tape in his first year with the Broncos. And that made me very bullish on his future, because that advancement helps him in all off-platform games where he goes from grading 0 to average. So at the end of the first year, Drew Lock was looking like being a middle-of-the-road quarterback. Nothing like you saw in 2020, a middle-of-the-road quarterback. On level with Derek Carr's and Tannehill's if they're in the right offense. But instead of building off that progress from year 1, Denver, like masochists, fired their offensive coordinator and got another offensive coordinator so we could start that adjustment phase over again. Quarterbacks like stability. Drew Lock has had one time since his freshman year in college, 6 years, that he got to work with an offensive coordinator for 2 seasons. And starting the adjustment phase over again is precisely what you saw with Drew Lock in 2020. He was behind on the reads. He was learning the offense. He had lost the wide receiver that he had the most chemistry built up with. And as Jerry Jeudy was working his way through learning the offense as well, you can tell he's thinking on the field because his focus drops spiked up. Drew Lock was learning an offense on the go and working with 2 people that he had chemistry with, Patrick and Fant. If you think that's a recipe for success, I don't know what to tell you, because it absolutely is not. But the truth of the situation is that Shurmur's offense fits Drew Lock very well once it settles in. And Denver doesn't seem to want to give them the time to do that. At least the fans don't. They're ready to turn the page and move on. But they absolutely shouldn't. Because with Sutton coming back, with Jerry Jeudy building chemistry with him, you're not going to see a 47% success rate on those targets. And when you're playing in an offense where you don't have chemistry with your weapons and you're still thinking through the offense and learning it on the go, all the bad habits have a way of coming out of the quarterback. And you can guess pretty easy what was the first thing to go with Drew Lock: the off-platform throws. Backpedaling into throws once again. Not controlling his feet on the boot once again. I kept tweeting all season that Drew Lock seems to be picking up new bad habits every single week, and Jordan Palmer's got to be ticked seeing this. And that's all because he's thinking through the offense. He doesn't have confidence in what he's doing yet. And that was actually confirmed late in the season, where they said in the last month they simplified the playbook again because Drew Lock still didn't have it down. This doesn't mean your quarterback is dumb. This doesn't mean your quarterback won't get the understanding of the offense. It just means that he settles in slowly. And every single quarterback settles into offenses at their own time. So before you bring in competition with a veteran quarterback to challenge Drew Lock thinking that'll be the answer, it's not. Give him one more year in this offense. The Broncos had a rough year, 5-11. They lost 6 games by 1 score. If Drew Lock can understand the offense, build some chemistry with Jeudy, get back Sutton, do you think they can impact this game by 1 score a week? He'll never be Russell Wilson. He will never be Deshaun Watson. But in this offense, the way it suits him, once he has it learned and has chemistry built with his targets, he will have chemistry built with all 4 targets he's looking to this year instead of just 2. The results you see on the field should increase dramatically. 1 more year. If he can't do it this year, then your team has a bad season and you turn the page. Just remember that a few years ago, Shurmur and the Minnesota Vikings went 13-3 with Case Keenum at quarterback. Your guy is way better than Case Keenum. They went deep into the playoffs with Case Keenum at quarterback. Your guy is better than Case Keenum. You can win with Drew Lock. And right now, you don't have the answer to if you can win with Drew Lock. But if you give him 1 more year, you will have that answer. And I expect it to be the one you want. So Drew Lock isn't broken. He is capable of being a middle-of-the-road quarterback. And the only reason he looks broken is because what Denver and Missouri put him through. I love you guys. We need you. Stay strong, and I'll see you on the other side.